So today I'm going to be walking you through a few different ways to use the cabochon shape templates that you can find on my Etsy shop. So to download the files, you want to visit my Etsy shop, and then you just go to Cabochon Shape Templates, and here you'll find a variety of different shapes and sizes. So you just select whichever one you're looking for. So, for example, today I'm going to be demonstrating how to use the 12 millimeter cabochon shapes. So you just go here and then you add to cart. So today I'm going to be working in both Photoshop and Illustrator. So I'll just show you there's a couple different ways to use the files. So really you can use them however you're comfortable with. I know a lot of people use a lot of different softwares and different cutting machines, or if you're using the cabochon shapes, and you may even just be printing them off and cutting them out by hand. So I'm just going to demonstrate in Photoshop. So when you open the PNG file, it's going to look like this. It's pink, and so if you want, you can make it. I'm going to change the paper size to 8.5 by 11. So what I did is I went to canvas size, not image size. So you can see that the circles are still 12 millimeters, but it just left some extra space. So you don't have to do this, but because if you're just printing it off, then it won't really matter. But I just like looking at it in the size of the US letters paper. And after this, so if your one idea is you go to File, Place, and then if you have some digital paper you may have purchased, I got this design off of Etsy. I'll put a link below. And also make sure to subscribe if you've been enjoying the videos I've been putting out so far. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and like the video, and leave a comment below if you have any questions or if you'd like me to see me create any other videos. So as you can see, it uploaded as a square because most digital papers are sold in 12 by 12 inches. So all you have to do is just make it bigger and press OK. And now you go to Layer, Create Clipping Mask, and that's it. So now you've overlaid the image. So this is great if, for example, you want to create, I can imagine like a bracelet where all the beads should have the same pattern. So if you have like a sunflower pattern or a Christmassy pattern, I think this would look really pretty. So this is a great way to use the files with digital paper. So I'm just going to turn that off. And so if you have a different design you want for each circle, then you're just going to have to do that one at a time. So you go to File, Place, select your image, and then you just scale it down. So I'm just going to put that here, and now I'm going to Control plus sign to zoom in because I'm on a PC. And then you can just eyeball it if you like till you get to the same size. If you want to have it be super perfect, then you make it tiny bit, so that's as centered as I can get it. So just make it a tiny bit bigger. See, all the pink is gone. Just make it a little bit bigger. And then OK. And then layer, clipping mask. And see, it's a perfect circle. So then you can just hold down the Alt key and then see how the icon changes to two arrows. And then you click and drag. And then, oh, I can see that it's not super perfect there. So you just repeat. So if you have different images, then you can just put them there and eyeball it. And then if you have the clipping mask, then you have to keep the pink on. Or if you don't have the clipping mask, I'm just going to release clipping mask. Release clipping mask. And then just to demonstrate that if you're doing different pictures, then make sure to remove the pink before you print so that you don't have any pink showing through by accident or to save on ink even. So that's how to use the PNG file as a template to help you set your document up for print. So after you have it all set up, then you just go, oh, you just go File, Print, and then you can print this off onto your paper. And then afterwards, you could just use it as you normally would. So you you use your 12 millimeter cabochon shapes, your glass cabochons. You put a little bit of glue. You put the cabochon on top. You let it dry, and then you can just trim away the extra paper. And then after that, then you have your custom handmade cabochons. So the next way is to use the templates is if you're going to work with just the SVG file or the DXF files. So remember, those two files are for cutting. The PNG isn't for cutting. It's just to use as a guide for arranging your images. So with the cutting files, you would open it up in your cutting software if you use Silhouette or Cricut or whatever program you use. I'm using Adobe Illustrator just because that's what I have on my computer. So you open up the SVG file, and then it's going to look just like this. And then, so the first way is if you have some scrapbooking paper that maybe you bought at like a department store, what you would want to do is put that onto your sticky mat, load it into your machine, and then you go to File, Print, and then you would send just the SVG file to your cutting machines. So then you would select your cutting machine and then push print. And then that way you can get all these little circles cut out on your scrapbooking paper. So that's one way to create these little circles. So the next way is if you want to print and cut in the same software, then it's similar to how I showed you before. So you go to File, Place, so make sure you're working on a separate layer. So this is the print layer, and this is the cut layer. So I'm just going to zoom in. So Control plus, and then, oh, that didn't. So then you just scale it down to the correct size. And you want to leave, it's handy to leave a bit of an overhang. Sometimes this can take a bit of trial and error. Uh, I am assuming a little bit that you have some familiarity with your machine. So that's why my tutorials are just a little bit more general. I'm hoping to make more machine specific tutorials in the future, like exclusively for Cricut and just for Silhouette. But right now I'm just kind of generally mentioning how to set up your files. So you might want to leave. I find like around, I think my snap is on. Yep, snap. So what that did, the snap makes it difficult to, it kind of like automatically snaps it to the guide, which can be helpful. Most of the time I don't find it helpful, so I turn it off. So what I did is I changed it to multiply so that I could see the cut layer through it. And now I can see how much of an overhang I have. So you can also select both. So you could see it selecting the cut and the print layer. Go to align and then center and center. And now both, now it should be perfectly centered. I'm just going to try that again. Okay, well it says it's perfectly centered. Doesn't quite look like it, but, and so now I'm going to put the transparency back to normal. So since, I'll put it back to multiply just so you can see what I'm doing. So since you have this nicely centered, if you want to do the same pattern, a quick way to do it is to delete this, select both, and then push the Alt key to duplicate both. So it's centered, and then now delete two, and copy both, and so on. So delete 4 and copy all. And that's just a time saving technique. So, and then if you're, if you like things perfect, then it's nice to go back to the align, make everything nice and straight, and then you could just continue on. So that's 5 shapes right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then delete the layer below, and then just continue on. So it's not really important that it's straight, but it can help for a few different reasons. So this is a way to have it if you have different individual files. And then, so going back to layers, I'm going to turn off the cut layer, select all, go to normal, and then if you want to print first, then you turn off your cut layer and you print your image. And then depending on how, what programs you use, I'm assuming you're already familiar with how to do a print and cut. Normally you have to have some sort of point of reference to make sure that it's set up in some way. On my machine I have a little X, and I just have to make sure the laser lines up with it, and then that way I know it'll cut in the same way spot that where it's printed. So after you print it off, you put it into your cutting machine, and then you just select the cut file, and then you just print with your cutting machine. So I hope you find this tutorial helpful for you to set up your on all the different ways that you can use these templates. So whether you're cutting your designs out by hand or with your cutting machine, you can use the different variety of files that you can find in my Etsy shop. So I'll make sure to put a link below to my shop and to anything else you may find helpful. And thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.